Hello guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles. We are slowly approaching the finale, the 4 episodes now left for the end of Vivy, Fluorite Eye's song. This week's episode was killer. Perhaps we've wrapped up a plotline, perhaps we haven't. Got lots to say about it. Make sure you are subscribed. I have started looking at the next season. It is the Summer of Isekai. Not my favourite genre, but after quite a bit of deliberation, I think I found 4 anime that I want to bring to you in breakdown form. I think they're good. I think I've chosen an anime which should cover most bases for everybody, so there's something for everyone. Of course, there is also my Let's Plays for Devil May Cry 5, which the first part is now up. So there's also a Let's Play now snuck in, so I have 1 day Let's Playing whilst 4 days of breakdowns coming your way in the next season. Can't wait. Make sure you are in the loop. Discord will allow you to have a notification whenever a video goes up. That also allows you to stay in a loop with the new projects I'm thinking about, whatever is going on. You guys should have, in about 3 weeks, a huge wrap-up going your way. It's going to be interesting. So let's kick it off. Let's go and explore Vivy episode 9. Vivy at this point really needed to make a move. We have 4 episodes left. Either it's leaving us on a cliffhanger or it just needed to make a move and give us an answer. What caused the war? Are we still going to have a war? Many questions now starting to go. What are the connections? Why are these the connections? I think one of the answers starts to come to light this episode as we start to actually look into Kakatani. Antonio's logic made very little sense to me. Take over and overwrite Ophelia. I was quite worried. I did think Ophelia may have been dead because he obviously overtakes her and controls her body in a way like a virus, like a hack. And I was really concerned that she would be dead, but she does seem to have a line right at the end where she too shows her feelings. So perhaps at that point she really is just a prisoner trapped within her own body, which is even more terrifying if you think about it. Antonio's body also moving on its own, showing us that this guy has got some pretty advanced technology and he's quite powerful to be able to control 2 things at once. It's very similar to the way that the cube, our virus cube, is able to make multiple versions of himself. But we know that the cube comes from the future. We're going to discuss Antonio's little toy a bit later on when I do my wrap up on what I think it means, because Antonio has a very interesting toy this episode. We need to start discussing Kakatani in a different light as well. Antonio's logic is just really hard to break down because he wants to help her, he wants to support her and stuff, but overriding her and making her essentially a prisoner and taking over her body, and what we hear a bit later on, it's not support and it's pretty toxic behaviour, even from an AI. It has been 40 years. It's been apparently 40 long years, and Kakatani, I don't know, have you eventually just lost it? Because he definitely seems to have gone off his rocker this week. This is an AI Kakatani, which explains what I was telling you guys last week. I couldn't get over it because it didn't look like him. Obviously, we'd seen him slowly aging up, and we'd seen the stubble, we'd seen the scars. He naturally aged up in Metal Float, and then he turned into this. And I was very confused. I even said it didn't quite look like him. So it looks like he has completely gone overboard. He has made an AI version of himself. The thing that gave it away were the eyes. The eyes are the camera lenses that we see used with Vivy. So this man hates AI, but he's gone and made himself a bridge, as he calls it, between human and AI. He has made himself an AI for the sake of revenge, for the sake of trying to get an answer. And he wants to erase Diva. He's implanted this code, this virus, which I did initially forget about during the rest of the sequences, all the stuff that was going on, and then it came back at the end. But he's trying to erase Diva because he wants to talk to Vivy. Vivy is the one he feels has the answers for him. It's a bit of a convoluted backstory, I'm not gonna lie. Kakatani, to me, I was expecting something a little different, a little bit, as we were discussing the reasons why he may hate AI. From what I think, the general gist of it is that he really hated the fact that AI were being treated like humans. So there was this boundary, and it made him physically sick. We actually see him being physically sick by the idea of his teacher, an AI, being buried, with a funeral style kind of thing. We actually see them holding a pretty decent funeral for him, respecting the way he went out, respecting his life and all the things that he did. And remembering he did sacrifice himself as well. Kakutani is almost sickened by the idea that they're also not treated in the same way. So it's either one or the other. You've not gone all in at the same time. He ended up joining Toke because he wanted to eradicate them, so we know now his motives, why he joined a terrorism group in a sense, because it lined up with his general theories, his worldview. He does state that the piano teacher and Vivy are the ones that sparked something. They lit a fire. These two AI ended up lighting a fire within him that he just couldn't explain. He just wanted answers. He just couldn't do it. He ends up leaving Toke, so we can't really call him the Toke guy anymore because he's not the Toke guy anymore. And that's now where we see him inside an AI body. This doesn't explain if he is fully dead in this world. So as much as we see the AI get taken down this week, this is an AI. This is a robot, a program. Is his real-life human body still in this world? So are we going to see old man Kakutani appear next singularity point? Is he going to come back? Because it's a possibility he still might. And I don't know if it's the last we've seen of him. Because we saw the AI go down, but we haven't seen his physical body yet. And with anime, I don't trust it unless I see a body. The Virus Cube rescue starts us off on the main theme of the episode, which is the relationship, the things that bind AIs together. We saw that as well with the Antonio Ophelia thing, maybe a bit more in a toxic relationship with those two, but it's the idea of bonds, the idea of relationships, which is going to be the main important player throughout this entire episode, and a big sequence coming our way. So there's a huge sequence that I'm going to try and break down in phases, because there's different phases, even though it is part of one big sequence, and it's just a great way of having two stories wrap up at the same time. Being able to see our cube in his element, producing many, many versions of himself, which really should probably make us appreciate how advanced this cube is, because he does come from the future. He came 100 years from the future. So him having powers like this, being able to do things that we haven't really seen in this world just yet, it reminds us that this guy has come leaps and bounds, and his technology is supposed to be somewhat ahead of the time period we're in, apart from, of course, what we see Antonio do. A little bit later on, we will discuss that. When we end up seeing Antonio versus the cube, the first look at it, and it really does, again, lean into the idea that I've been calling this a game style in a sense. This bit here really looking like a boss, a game style. We get to see the essentially what looks like a lock-on. They've locked onto Antonio, and you can see the life in the power bar as well. I like that little technique. I really do like the way that we have overlays on the screen as well. Are introduced to the toy. This is the little toy I want to talk about, the Kakutani terrorist method. It's a warfare program, a literal warfare program. We haven't heard the word war for a while. We've got a warfare program on our hands. And this warfare program is given to Antonio, who starts to exhibit very similar techniques to the cube. And bear in mind, the cube has come from the future. I'm starting to look at Kakutani in a little bit of a different light. And we'll talk about the revelation section at the end, because I think this may be a few hints that have been dropped finally. But this is a warfare program. This is an advanced program that seemingly could fit right into the future. Kakutani is once again involved in our singularity point. He has that link to Antonio/Ophelia. He is definitely an ongoing thing. He's not a coincidence at this point. He's got to be a factor. He's got to be an actual reoccurring factor at this point. That is possibly the reason for the war. I'm starting to wonder if Kakutani is the reason for the war. And I didn't want to say it right at the start because I felt like I was pulling things out of thin air. The initial scientist I know, who technically is supposed to be Matsumoto, the cube, I do wonder, is the professor we see hitting the button right at the very start, trying to wake up Vivy, is this anything to do with Kakutani? Is there a link here that has been given to us right in episode 1 that I've overlooked? Possibility. And the only reason I'm mentioning it now because I want to get it off my chest in case it does end up being the thing. It's been something on the back of my mind since day one, because we didn't really get any information about the professor. And now seeing the warfare program looking very similar, and the fact that this warfare program has also got similar traits to what the cube's doing from 100 years in the future, does make me wonder if there is a link there. Obvious problem as well, if Kakutani is the reason for war, Vivy is the one who ends up saving him initially right in the first mission, when he was maybe seemingly supposed to die. So it's a possibility that this could just be a red herring. I'm trying to look into this guy too much. Maybe he wasn't even initially involved with the initial timeline we had leading to the war. Perhaps he was supposed to die during that point. Antonio apparently has devoted himself to the idea of singing, but this really doesn't quite line up. So he now has a warfare program to hand. This is a huge leap. This is such a big leap. It feels like a stretch. Trying to get a link with Antonio and Kakutani really feels like a bit of a stretch. Kakutani, let's talk about the AI that he is. He is absolutely armed to the teeth. It's insane. It really is insane, some of these weapons. Also reminds me of an anime that came out a few years back called Inuyashiki, where it was also CGI, but the idea of the bodies breaking apart and there were guns hidden in the wrists and everything. The way his AI is built, it's full of guns. It's a warfare machine. It's just we're starting to lean into the word war quite a bit, and we must be very close now to approaching the war starting, and the finale essentially must be approaching very shortly. I like the fact that he's also armed very heavily, because I did start to worry a bit about Vivy, and it does feel like she is a bit of an underdog. It makes you feel that there actually could be something to lose, that Vivy could die, she could be damaged by this. He is still telling her not to interfere in the human territory, so he still hasn't really changed a great deal, despite becoming an AI, going to such lengths. He still upholds his worldviews on AI, and he seems to have not really learnt a great deal. Gemini at this point is on stage, showing us that we are halfway through the concert. We're at number 6, so we haven't really got long left. We need to be wrapping this up quite quickly if we're going to get Vivy on stage. It's quite odd that we see her taking a lot of damage during this fight, and at the end she goes on stage without any wounds, no physical damage to be seen. Vivy's determination to sing for him, even despite the fact that the way he has been, is still something that reminds him of his teacher and ends up shocking him once again. This determination is somehow throwing him. Let's talk now about the cube versus Antonio colour choices. So we have literally inverted colours going on. The black dress becomes white, everything white suddenly becomes dark, and we've got this red virus starting to eat into our virus cube. I like it because it's flipped colours. It shows you almost a being hacked feel. It really makes you feel like this is a virus. We're being hacked. Everything is really backwards. Antonio just feels like his logic is very backwards. Showing us the red that is eating into the virus cube allows us to see the proper danger behind what's going on. It gives us a visual as well. It's a visual aid to us seeing the danger that the cube's in, because we can't really see a virus. A computer virus isn't visible to the naked eye. We just see the effects of the virus. So allowing us to actually see what's eating away at him, I think that's quite important for us to get a bit more of an impact and get more from the sequence. The cube realizes that Antonio is the darker version of what he could have become. Antonio ends up killing his partner. However, we have seen that the virus cube has never given up, despite the fact that they're bitter, despite the very bumpy start they had. He still tried to save her, despite the fact she couldn't even remember, and she was at that point diva. The virus cube is realizing and learning through even just seeing how Antonio is. He's learning that he himself can become something better. He lacked empathy. He's always been said that he lacks empathy. Antonio is the part of him that he doesn't want to become, and him seeing this is a bit of a wake-up call to him. It's just, again, playing on the theme that is going on through this episode, the idea of partnerships, the idea that you need to work with your partner. You have to work together. He's able to see the relationship between the singer Ophelia and Antonio, work out that what they had is never going to be anything as strong as what Vivy and him have. Kakutani versus Vivy. Let's talk about this beautiful segment now. It's beautiful. The lighting is gorgeous, seeing them fighting in the moonlight, seeing the way that they're backlit. It is a beautiful section. It is very nicely choreographed. The way she adopts quite a close combat, nice stance, a fighting stance, ready to take him on. It is beautifully sounded, as always. I love the music. Always got to give credit to the music. The strings end up rising into a major key. The piece is fantastic. I really got motivated behind it. It really kicks off and it becomes a spectacular sequence to even view. Virus Cube and Vivy working together is just fantastic. They have to work together to overcome Kakutani. They have to work together because neither is strong enough on their own. We see Vivy pretty much getting her butt handed to her, but she needs to pair up with the cube. I also like the way that Kakutani moves as an AI. He's not slacking. He's definitely not slacking. He's moving as well. The secret blade hidden in his arm, taking the cube horse right out. It's great. It really shows us as well that this isn't a one-sided battle. He isn't going to go down easy. The two actually have to work to get him down. This isn't an easy fight. The close combat sequence is fantastic. I really does feel like they've modelled it off a real fight stance, the way that they're together, they're blocking. It also gives some great impact. It really makes you feel that they're hitting one another. But then the Singularity Project is mentioned. This, of course, is the job that the Virus Cube and Diva have got. This is their mission together they have been given. But it is mentioned by Kakutani, which starts to raise some more alarm bells. Phase 3. Let's talk about Phase 3 quickly. The sequence between the cube and Antonio. As we see Antonio's body start to be taken down, his body now leaking, falling to the floor. Antonio can never surpass Ophelia. He can never beat Ophelia. He may have the body of Ophelia, but he can't find his heart. He can't sing in the way that she does. She sang her songs with something else. She was delivering those songs with something that he could never have. It is powerful. Seeing two storylines being told at the same time. A nice little link as well, this idea of being something more, the idea of heart, the idea of partnership as well. Kakutani blaming his teacher dying on the fact that he was trying to do more than his mission. So he is angry because he simply went above just playing piano, making people happy with his lessons, and he ended up going above and beyond, rescuing the people around him, trying to save everybody, risking his own life. He risks it all. He puts himself beyond everything and dies. And this, for some reason, seems to anger him. He believes that they should just be obeying humans. You should just be following your code. Diva should just be singing. Stop interfering in the human world. Stop trying to do more. You're trying to do something more and you're just a program. You shouldn't be doing anything more. The AA Kakutani is finally taken down, but he's not going down without a fight, without the last laugh. But it is a nice joint effort. Seeing him go down finally is a joint effort between the Cube and Vivy. They had to work together. We are really seeing the idea of partnership, the idea of working together this episode. I really, really like it. Ophelia still dies in this singularity point, which I do wonder is if that's going to still have a negative effect. It may not go down as suicide, but it looks like two lovers ended up killing themselves because they couldn't be together or they weren't understood. So the way the bodies are with the two reaching out to one another, maybe this is going to spur something completely different, but it feels like it's going to have the same effect. These AI ended up killing each other because of love, something that AI shouldn't really be able to experience. So I still think it's going to cause some philosophical questions into the aftermaths. Antonio really just wanted to hear her sing for him, just wanted to keep her just to himself. He didn't want to share. He wanted to keep her for himself, which is a really toxic way of looking at things. It's jealousy as well. It was a resolve that ended up getting them both killed. Perhaps it was an unspoken love because they definitely share the same idea of wanting to just sing for one another. It is a tragic love as we see them dying in the snow. Here is our first twist incoming. How did Kakutani know about the Singularity Project? He mentions a revelation. He also mentions the sleep mode Vivy and the fact that he lost his purpose. Then he asks the question, do AIs suffer? Is it really right, though, to wipe out and just eradicate all the AIs? And he leaves us with some quite harsh words that you never need to forget, the fact that humans are suffering because of your existence. I don't know, it's this line as well. Are humans really suffering if the AI are putting themselves on the line to save them? There's just a few little questions I don't quite know if I agree with what he's saying. I get where he's coming from. But sadly, he goes out having the last laugh as Diva is about to be eradicated. This is our twist. This is going to be our final performance. It's going to be the last final mission with Diva singing in her utmost best, bringing smiles to absolutely everybody within the crowd. It is a very nice song, to be fair. It is a very nice song, the way it's handled, all of the effects on stage as well. It is our goodbye from Diva to Vivy. The lyrics are fantastic as well, which I do wonder if it's about the virus cube, mainly. Because some of the lyrics, especially the ones which go, right when we finally understand one another, farewell comes. So we're talking about the idea of figuring one another out, but then it comes too late because, we've got to say goodbye. Diva is now saying goodbye to the virus cube. She says that she's finally found the missing piece, so at least Diva's worked it out at the very least. Two sides of the coin, both of them, seeing both of the personalities not quite able to interact, but we have the shadows, them sitting by the door doing exactly the same thing, which shows you they are at heart the same person doing the same movements, but one is looking down at the floor, looking sad, which is Vivy, who hasn't found her way, whilst Diva is happy, head held high, because she's finished her mission. She knows what it is. She's found those missing pieces. It's the idea of being concerned about a partner. They both talk about the virus cube at this point, someone who is intrinsic to both of them. Again, lyrics. You scold me and tell me not to lose. The idea of the fact that the virus cube is always on her side, wanting her to succeed, but he does scold her a lot. He nags her a lot. These seem to be thrown into the lyrics quite nicely as well. Diva has found the idea of heart, the idea of emotion, smiling, really just feeling your words and putting your actual thoughts and your experiences into a song. Diva tries her best to help Vivy find her own way, where finally the virus ends up killing Diva. Kakatani essentially wanted Vivy back to answer his questions, so it made no sense for him to eradicate Vivy just yet until he got the answers that he was looking for. So next week looks very, very concerning. Vivy seems to have lost her ability to sing, lost her way. Obviously, we've had a very heavy episode of her being two people in one body. That must be quite a shocking experience. Next week's story seems very, very concerning. So there is a lot going on. We are entering the final phase now. We really only have 4 episodes to go. Kakatani, I believe, is still in it. I don't think he's been eradicated. His AI body has been. If this AI body is uploaded anywhere, if this data exists anywhere else, it can be made a copy of. It's very difficult to eradicate a computer program. Most of the time, your data is saved in multiple places. So there may be more copies of him. I don't think it's the last we've seen of him just yet. We have to be approaching a war point at this point, and this singularity point didn't go very well. The mission seemed to have been stopping Ophelia killing herself, but the result is equally the same thing. We've still got a body of Ophelia laying in the snow. If anything, you've just added an even more tragic point because it looks like the two could never have been together, so they've killed one another. Really hammering into the story of Ophelia, the idea that she could never really have her tragic love. She ended up taking her own life. It still looks like that. Then these humans aren't going to look into the fact that, oh, these were fighting. They're going to look into it as two lovers who couldn't be together, so they've committed a joint suicide. So it's going to be very interesting to see what after effects this has, because this was supposed to be something we changed to stop the war. I do think the war is coming nonetheless. I do now wonder if Kakatani is a reason behind why the war started. I've got questions about the original guy who sends the virus cube back to Vivy in the first place. Can you even trust the guy who did that? Can we trust that professor? We don't have enough information about it. Again, the virus cube is suspicious. Many of us don't have enough information to fully trust him. The story is getting there. We seem to be slowly gaining a bit of momentum now, heading into the final stretch. I don't think there's going to be a second season. I do think this might just be a single story where we have a season and it hopefully wraps up nicely at the end. Hopefully it's going to do a great job at wrapping up. So I will see you guys again next week to see where the story takes us now. I'm so glad we finally had the Kakatani thing explained because he really didn't look like himself last episode. So I will see you guys again soon. Thanks for your support. Make sure you stay safe. Bye-bye, guys.